Okay, welcome back to another vlog, everybody, and today we're going to be talking about why you should train your muscle groups more than once per week. Now, spoiler alert, it's because it's going to be more advantageous to progress growth, and for the most part, and for most of you on this channel, because you're here, you want to improve the way you look, you want to improve muscle mass, you want to improve strength, it's probably going to be a better option for most of you rather than the alternative of destroying and annihilating one muscle group once per week, or as we can sometimes refer to it as the bro split. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so there's a couple of factors that we really want to consider when we look at training our muscle groups 2 to 3 times per week. Now, the first thing that I like to use as the backbone to any decisions or any approaches that we take from a pragmatic standpoint is look at the evidence that supports it and what is current, what is upcoming, because things are always changing, and then using that in alignment with experience, okay, my own training, clients, etc., all of those things together and what actually works, because sometimes what works on paper doesn't always work in the flesh. And what we can conclude, what I can conclude, is that when we train our muscle groups with a frequency of 2 to 3 times per week, so hitting those muscle groups, okay, more often than just once, okay, and you've got to remember there's crossovers here as well. So if you're doing any pushing movements, you know, it might not be direct tricep work, but that is a synergist or an assistant muscle to a pushing movement. So sometimes we forget and we can end up overshooting the volume by quite a little bit too. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're new and you're a beginner. So for example, when a lot of us start out in the gym, we go in and we just do whatever we've seen in a magazine. We do whatever our friends do. We do whatever the most, jack guy in the gym is doing, but perhaps that is not always the best approach. Now, when we're a beginner, we may think, well, this is working because I'm getting bigger and I'm getting stronger. But we've got to realize something. When we start off at anything, we're going to have a period of time where we have a rapid increase in progression or improvement, because while most things are a skill, and I've said this repeatedly and I say it all the time, strength is a skill. Okay, so initially, sometimes if you get better at something, it doesn't mean you're actually building muscle. It can mean that you're just getting more proficient within that movement pattern. You're getting neurological adaptations. Your muscles are getting stronger within those ranges of motion. You're getting conditioned. You're getting more acquisition. You've got more coordination. You can recover faster. It's like anything. You get more familiar with it. You get better. So to a point, you can think, well, this is working. But then, once you have done that for a period of time, and everyone is slightly different genetically, you may find that you start to hit walls. You can't put more weights on the bar anymore, and things are just not moving. Perhaps you get a few niggles, etc. Perhaps things are stale. Perhaps you're not recovering. Perhaps you don't feel as energized or as motivated as you did when you first started. And this is generally to a point where we are overtraining, or, because most people don't actually overtrain, they just under-recover. And then it may be that we are not changing the stimulus frequently enough, or we don't have a progression, so a progression strategy that allows us to progress at a rate that is congruent to getting muscle tissue and being able to actually get bigger and stronger. Now, everyone is slightly different, so some people are going to respond really well. We've got high responders, we've got low responders, we've got medium responders, and sometimes people put markers on these things like, oh, okay, when you can hit this number or this many reps or this weight, that's when you're intermediate and advanced. And that's not really fair to say, because everyone, again, is individual, and some people are going to be stronger than others because of their size, their genetics, their predispositions. So there's a lot of factors, guys. What I'm trying to get at here is don't get too focused on one number or one metric. Look at things in a totality, so take a zoomed out approach, track some basic measurables, track them consistently over time, and you'll find you're making progress. And if you're making progress, then it's working. Don't always be so quick to swap something out because, oh, I think this is going to be better, or optimal, because optimal is very subjective or for the most part anyway. It's like being in a supermarket. You go, I'm in this queue right here, it's going down, you see another queue that's moving a little faster, and you think, oh, I'll jump in that queue. And then you jump in that queue, and the one you're in moves faster again. So it's like you've got to kind of commit to some degree. But of course, it is also a caveat, good to know when things aren't working, hence why we've got to track some certain measurables. And if we're tracking these measurables, for example, you're tracking your weight over time, you're tracking your body fat percentage, basic things, guys. You can use skin folds, girth measurements, progress pictures. You're tracking strength, your actual volume. So you've got some sort of program where you can record what you're doing, and your main lifts, your big compound movements, you're progressing over time, then it's working. When that does not work, you're under recovering, okay, your sleep is not good, all those things like that, these little sort of contraindications start coming up. These are signs that, you know, perhaps what you're doing is not going to be congruent, or perhaps you need to make some changes. Now, the biggest one comes back to, again, training muscle groups more frequently. And the reason why is because if we go in the gym and we train a muscle group and we absolutely annihilate it, great coffee. Sponsored? No, I'm not. Then we can, you know, effectively put a lot of volume in that muscle, but then because we've really taken it to a place close to failure, if not failure, we're probably not going to be able to train that muscle group in the next day or two. And therefore we're losing out on volume, and then it's a whole 7 days before I come around and train that again. So for example, let's take a bro split, right? We've got chest Mondays, say we do quads, say we do back, and then say we do shoulders and arms and whatever it is, right? And straight away, we're sort of reducing the total volume that we can get through those muscles, and we're reducing the frequency. So in my training fundamental series, I talk a lot about volume, frequency, and intensity. And these were foreign concepts for me when I started, but ultimately they are some of the cornerstones of your physique success, and they don't have to be overcomplicated. Volume is the totality of kilos or tonnage you're putting through the body. The frequency is how often you are doing that, and the intensity is how hard it actually is, or how much weight in that rep or set is on the bar, how hard you're working relative to your percentage of 1RM in many respects. So if we then go, hang on a minute, I've done the bro split, it did work for a period of time, but now I'm not really progressing. Well, first of all, we talked about how strength is a skill. So if you have an interest in strength and you want to get stronger at the big movements, the squat, the bench, the deadlift variants, that is when maybe you need to train those movements multiple times a week. So you might train them in a hypertrophic rep range, which is the fancy name for muscle building, 8 to 12. You might train them in the strength rep range at the end of the week, between 1 to 6. The power rep range, looking at 1 to 3, 3 to 5, etc. Different percentages of your 1 rep max. So each time you train that, you're not training it in the same rep range, you're not training it with the same intensity, you are allowing the body to go, cool, this here is my hypertrophy day, I'm gonna have a little bit more soreness, but I can build more volume. My strength day, I get to practice more absolute strength, okay, lower rep ranges, a lot of weight on the bar, and then we've got our power days, which is sort of that, yeah, it's fairly heavy, but we're not doing a lot of reps, and it's more for skill. Because again, if we can become more skillful at that movement, we're reducing and managing fatigue, we can progress over time. Now that's a lot more advanced for more powerlifting specific, but even if you squatted and benched twice a week and deadlifted, depending on the recovery, and you did it in a way where you could recover and you spread that volume, you would find that you would progress a lot faster. Now, for those of you who just want to get big and jacked, you might not care so much about those movements, although what I would say is if you can become very strong at those movements with quality form, you will find that you will have a quite impressive physique. It will be quite large, you will develop fairly well, because if you are able to move a load through the big movements and you're able to do it for reps, okay, with good quality form, you will automatically, by default, have to develop a certain amount of size. And this is why we can say there's a relationship between size and strength. And then depending on which way we want to go, we've got to alter it. So as a really simple takeaway, if your interest is more in strength, then 2/3 of your training volume should be in the 1 to 6 rep range, and 1/3 should be in the hypertrophic rep range, 6 to 12. If your goal is more hypertrophy, then 2/3 of your volume should be in the 6 to 12 rep range, and 1/3 of your volume should be in the 1 to 6 rep range. This is a basic recommendation. This is not a given, okay? So just a caveat there, but just something to consider. So now imagine we take that bro split and instead we go, well, hang on, I can train 5 days a week, because this comes down to how often you can train. Maybe you can only get in 4 days, and then you go lower upper, off, lower upper, off, etc. So you're still getting that 2 times a week frequency. If you can train 5 days a week, or even 6, and you don't have to, I know more is not always better here, guys, because we've got to make sure we are recovering. You might go, cool, I'm going to have a lower upper off, legs push pull, okay? Or we might have a pull, legs, push, off, lower upper. There are so many ways that you can bring it together, but ultimately you're spreading your volume throughout the week, so you're hitting multiple muscle groups multiple times a week, and then you can tailor it to yourself. What on your physique needs improving? Most people legs, especially for you young guys. You want to be hitting those at the start of the week. You want to be hitting them twice a week, okay? You want to be prioritizing those over your chest and your biceps, unless they're lagging, because 9 times out of 10, they're the things that are getting a lot of the attention. And when you do progress your training, you might find that now you've got a lot of work to do, and you've got a lot of functional flaws in your physique and weaknesses because you've not paid attention to those other muscle groups. So it's really important from not only an aesthetic but a safety and a functional and a health standpoint to remain fairly well balanced in your body, and you will have a better physique, you will look better, and you will be able to perform better on those big movements. So guys, train your muscle groups 2 to 3 times per week if you want to take advantage of something that is going to be a little bit more advantageous of growth and progression over time. If you're a beginner, you can do whatever the hell you want, but if you can start understanding these concepts now, if you can start to get an idea of progression and have some structure now, when you do get past those beginner gains, when you do start to stall, then you can have a strategy. You can already be in a rhythm and a rhyme and a routine and be able to actually progress at a certain rate. I'll probably make some more videos on more advanced training after this, but for most part, and most people watching this channel, you're going to be on that beginner intermediate. You're not going to need to figure out and look at the nitty gritty right now. Don't lose the forest for the trees, guys. Focus on the basics, the fundamentals. They are the keys. And if you want to learn more, yes, go to my academy. Link will be up here on the screen somewhere, where you can have more in-depth information, where I will teach you at a cost that everyone can afford anywhere around the world, all the fundamentals to training and nutrition with actionable takeaways, so you can start to do this yourself, okay, with all the guidance from myself and a lot of great professionals, very well-renowned and legitimate professionals, so you can actually start putting this together. And of course, for those of you who've got the luxury and would like something a little bit more hands-on, but you're not here, you're not in the world, we've got the online, which we can still use. We can still get in there. You can get that personalized programming from me. I write all my programs myself, and if I can't, I don't take on the clients, and I will refer you to the academy or a waiting list. And for those of you who do have the luxury, the absolute luxury of being here one-on-one, we can do the creme de la creme. That's the one-on-one coaching. Limited spaces available, guys. I've got around 5 to 6 spots at the minute, because of everything that started back here in Australia. I absolutely love what I do, and I must admit, I love the one-on-one, and I plan to do it for as long as I can. I don't want to just go online, although that is a big part of my business. I still want to be able to get in and help people one-on-one and run masterclasses, which will start to develop later on in 2020, maybe even 2021, depending on how all the dynamics are going. So guys, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate your support. As always, if you've got something positive to say, leave a comment. If you're unsure of something, drop me a line. If you want some coaching, if you've got any inquiries, head over to my website, or you can email me at alex@fearlesstraining.org. And of course, if you like the video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys all here next week.